Good morning. Welcome as we gather in this space in this season. I have several invitations to share with you this morning about things that are happening with and for us in this season. On Friday of this week, we'll celebrate the longest night of the year. We invite you to come for a brief spiritual gathering in a circle as we think and speak and reflect on the gifts of darkness, and then there will be a spacious opportunity to walk our indoor labyrinth and to just enjoy the music or the silence or the space of that time. So please join us Friday evening at 7 o'clock. On Christmas Eve, there are 3 opportunities to gather with us at 4 o'clock. A time that is particularly for young children, an interactive, involving, engaging experience for our youngest ones. You're all welcome, but it's a particularly good opportunity to involve our youngest members of our community. At 7 o'clock, an all-ages gathering, much like a Sunday morning gathering with choir, time for all ages. It's for everyone. And whether or not you're in Edmonton, you can join us for our Christmas Eve gathering at 7 o'clock. There will be an opportunity to live stream that gathering. So if you're not able to be with us here in this space, join us online. And the same is true at 11 o'clock. That service will also be live streamed, and it's a quiet, contemplative, reflective candlelight communion gathering. New Year's Eve, there's also an opportunity to come together and enjoy one another, to share some food, to play some games. So if you would like to bring in the new year kind of on a Newfoundland sort of timing, midnight comes really early, plan to join us. There's a sign-up sheet in the foyer, and there's more details in the e-messenger. Is that it? Oh, and our library. There's a little time in these holiday weeks to be doing some reading, so please visit our library and help yourself to sign out something that interests you there. Our library is located now in our lounge just off the foyer.
Welcome to all of you to our circle and our spiritual gathering on this Sunday morning. We welcome all of us, whether we've been here many times or this is our first or one of our few. You're welcome in this circle. If you're joining us online this morning, you're also welcome and a part of what we do here together. Joining us live from the lounge of St. Andrew's College in Saskatoon this morning is our satellite community, SSUC Saskatoon, and they are joining us here this morning, and welcome to you all. We are privileged to have the Silvertones up front and center this morning as they bring us some special music throughout the gathering this morning, and of course our very able and capable musicians in the ensemble. We thank everyone for their music and their involvement, and all of us for our participation today. As we gather this morning, we recognize that we are gathering in sacred space, not because we've built this building here, but because we gather in a place that has a long history, which is every place. The land that is beautiful and special because it is what provides for us, for our ancestors, for our children. That land that has been called many things: home, Treaty 6 territory, the ancestral lands of many a nation. We give thanks for the fact that we can gather on this land, and we recognize the specialness and the relationships that go along with our place here. As I stalled for time there, I recognized that we have a video from Saskatoon, and we'll see if it goes.
Good morning, SSUC Edmonton, and today Cliff and Deb. We want to wish all of you a very Merry Christmas. And we expect you to celebrate that Christmas season in whatever manner suits you. Merry Christmas to all of you. Merry Christmas.
We certainly can answer them. I just want the thumbs up from the video camera to make sure that we actually capture it. Because that's happened before. You didn't know this, but we've waved and the camera wasn't ready, so they completely missed it. Thumbs up. Let's turn around and wave. Hello, Saskatoon. Merry Christmas. We do celebrate that we are connected in so many ways, connected among us and between us, whether we're here in one place or connected across miles. I'm sure that's the same for us in our families too. We're connected with those close by and those at a distance, and we're grateful for that. And it's one of the things that we come to celebrate in this season of Christmas. Let's sing ourselves into this circle this morning.
We're in this season of celebrating stories of growing darkness and the return of the sun from its southern journey, stories of St. Nicholas and Santa Claus and the uprising that's remembered in celebrating Hanukkah, and the legends of the birth of one whose teaching still inspires so many of us, stories of a birth that has inspired so much music in so many parts of the world. And amid December story days, we count our way toward Christmas, lighting a candle each week. And each flame is a way of making our way in the dark. Each week we find just a little more light for our way. Simone's going to help me this morning as we relight the first candle of Advent, a candle for hopefulness, for creating places of possibility. En français, how would we name that candle?
Nous allons allumer la chandelle de l'espérance. La chandelle de l'espérance.
And we relight the second candle of Advent, a candle for compassion.
La chandelle de la compassion.
We talked about how hard compassion is last week.
It's going to move.
And we light the third candle of Advent today, a candle for hospitality in a world that is often inhospitable for so many.
C'était la chandelle de l'hospitalité.
Each of our candles push back the darkness just a little. And today we do it with the hope that our genuine hospitality will lighten the way for many.
The child grew up and showed us the way to do justice every day, to love compassionately, and to walk humbly in this amazing universe.
It's our time for all ages. Anyone who wants to come to the carpet for a time for all ages is welcome. Come on. There's something here on our carpet. Come have a seat. Here, I'll move this a little this way, and then there's more room. There we go. Okay. I brought a table with me today to show you what sometimes my kitchen table looks like. So, there's newspapers on it. There's pens and pencils on it. There's all kinds of books on it. And there's a lot of crumbs on it. This is the way it happens because people read here, people eat here, people write here. Lots of things happen at our table. I don't know if that happens at your house too. If you do lots of things at your table, lots of things just happen there. So I thought that it would be good to see what a table looks like just normally, because that's life. It's messy, and we're doing lots of things. But there is also a time when we have to eat at the table. So this happens quite a lot because there's already stuff on the table. So when someone says, "Could you set the table?" How's that? That's no good? What did I miss?
You missed cleaning up.
Cleaning up. Oh, yeah. Okay. You're right. Okay. So let me back up a bit. Why don't I take this away? Could I get some help? Yes, great. Okay. Could someone take some books off? Someone take some pens? And then someone very carefully put some crumbs in your hand? Do you know how to do that? Yes, you do know how. That's exactly right. And you can just put the things down here on the floor. That's okay. That's great. That happens in my house too. All the stuff that was on the table is now just next to the table on the floor. This is great. You did a fantastic job. And look at this crumb work. This is great crumb work. Thank you very much. Sometimes, too, it helps to just, when you're almost done, to just do this. And then they end up on Bonnie. Okay. They end up on the grass. And then we ask, here, you could put the crumbs on this book. Thank you very much. Okay, so now we're ready. So, I want to actually have a point. My point is, we have to make space. We always have to make space for something to happen next. We can't just add things on top of each other. We end up with a big oops that way. So, now that we've made space, we can set the table. So, someone who hasn't helped yet, could you help with plates? Thank you, Isaac. Wonderful. Sam, do you want to help with forks? Okay. And who can help with knives? Someone who hasn't helped yet? Here we go. Great. Oh, look at this. It's coming along. We're setting 4 places. So we don't feel as cramped now. We don't have to eat with newspapers and books and crumbs. There's room for new things. Whoops! Oh, and with a knife in your hand, we're all good. Thank you. You did great. You did great.
I'm still alive.
You are alive. Thank you. That's right. If there's no blood, everyone's good. Now, one of the things Sometimes we have to clear space, don't we? To make room for the next thing. What happens, though, if we decide that, oh, wait, we forgot there's one more person to fit? There's one more person. Your friend is coming over. Your friend is coming over for dinner. What are we going to do? What should we do? Any ideas? Well, we could eat, but we have to fit them at the table. We have to fit them at the table first. Look, our table looks pretty full of dishes, but some of you have ideas. Liam, you have an idea.
We could, eat somewhere else.
We could eat somewhere else, but we've done this nice job of the table. We don't want to waste that. Isaac?
We could add another table together.
Oh my gosh, that's a really good idea. We could add another table. What's another idea?
You can buy another table and go to the store really quickly.
Buy a bigger table. Go really quick. Buy a bigger table. It's another good idea. Any other ideas? Yes. We could put another table there. Now, here's an idea. What if we use this table? What if we just squish a little bit? Do you think we could do that? Could we just squish? We can squish. It's okay. Because look, watch. Watch this. Look at that. Now, if someone gets a corner, 2 or 3 people get a corner, but that's okay. Corner never hurt much.
Unless it's a sharp corner.
Right, but we've got a cloth on here. It makes it not so sharp. So, look, we've just fit one more. There is always space. We can always find space. You had lots of good ideas. We could squish. We can add another table. But you know what? There's always room for more. And we have to do the same thing all the time. Sometimes it's when we're playing games and one more person wants to play. Well, maybe it doesn't work perfectly for the game, but you know what? We can do it. We can always do it. We can make sure there's room for one more to play, one more to eat. And that is what being a good friend and being a hospitable and friendly person means. It means we can always find room for one more. So thank you for making space with me. Oh my goodness, you are so good at this. Your parents and grandparents are going to be so pleased that you know how to do this. You don't look happy. How would you like to make space for lots of fun things to do in Kids Spirit and preschool and youth cafe this morning? Good, you're ready. Well, let's go. I invite you to your programs this morning where you can make space for all of you.
Go
Judy Chicago, an artist, imagined a world of good news when more than 40 years ago she wrote these words in a poem called Merger Poem. And then all that has divided us will merge, and then compassion will be wedded to power, and then softness will come to a world that is harsh and unkind, and then both men and women will be gentle, and then both women and men will be strong, and then no person will be subject to another's will, and then all will be rich and free and varied, and then the greed of some will give way to the needs of the many, and then all will share equally in earth's abundance, and then all will care for the sick and the weak and the old, and then all will nourish the young, and then all will cherish life's creatures, and then all will live with harmony with each other and the earth, and then everywhere will be called Eden once again. In the vision of this artist,
It's a reading from Luke chapter 14. Jesus went on to tell a story to the guests around the table. Noticing how each had tried to elbow into the place of honor, he said, "When someone invites you to dinner, don't take the place of honor. Somebody more important than you might have been invited by the host. Then he'll come and call you out in front of everybody. You're in the wrong place. The place of honor belongs to this person. Red-faced, you'll have to make your way to the very last table, the only place left. When you're invited to dinner, go and sit at the last place. Then when the host comes, they may very well say, 'Friend, come up to the front.' That will give the dinner guests something to talk about. What I'm saying is, if you walk around with your nose in the air, you're going to end up flat on your face. But if you're content to be simply yourself, you will become more than yourself." Then he turned to the host. "The next time you put on a dinner, don't just invite your friends and family and rich neighbors, the kind of people who will return the favor. Invite some people who never get invited out. The misfits from the wrong side of the tracks. You'll be and experience a blessing. They won't be able to return the favor, but the favor will be returned. Oh, how it will be returned." That triggered a response from one of the guests. "How fortunate the one who gets to eat dinner in the beloved community." Jesus followed up, "Yes, for there was once a man who threw a great dinner party and invited many. When it was time for dinner, he sent out his servant to the invited guests, saying, 'Come in, the food's on the table.' Then they all began to beg off, one after another, making excuses. The first said, 'Oh, I bought a piece of property and need to look it over. Send my regrets.' Another said, 'Oh, I just bought 5 team of oxen and I really need to check them out. Send my regrets.' And yet another said, 'I just got married. I need to get home to my wife.' The servant went back and told the master what had happened. He was outraged and told the servant, 'Quickly, get out into the streets and the alleys, collect all who look like they need a meal, all the misfits and homeless and wretched you can lay your hands on, and bring them in here.' The servant reported back, 'Master, I did what you commanded, and there's still room.' And the master said, 'Then go to the country roads. Whoever you find, drag them in here. This house should be full. Let me tell you, not one of those originally invited is going to get so much as a bite at my dinner party." In this parable from the Jesus tradition, may we find wisdom for our living.
For many, this is a very social time of the year. A time we're often intentional about getting together with family and friends, co-workers, a time of gathering for Christmas parties and Christmas dinners. It's a season of giving and receiving hospitality, hosting one another in all kinds of ways. And so maybe it's an important season to ponder our experiences and our expressions of hospitality. What does hospitality really look like? Is it just a social duty, an obligation, a kind of social convention? If you Google images of hospitality, what you get are images that we've come to call the hospitality industry. Hotel management and wait service and catering companies. So it's with ears for the place of hospitality in our lives that we hear this story Chris read for us about a very unusual dinner party, a story of an unusual dinner party that was told at a dinner party that we wouldn't expect a nobody from Nazareth to be at. Luke has Jesus tell this story as a guest at an extravagant dinner table of a prominent religious leader. And the first thing that becomes clear is that Jesus has left his manners back in Nazareth. Find their place. He hardly has his coat off when he is insulting the guests who are jockeying to find their place at the table. And then he begins to revise the seating plan of his host. And then he shifts his criticism from the guests to the host himself, and he wonders out loud about the guest list. Why is it that just the prominent friends of the host are populating this table? So he begins to ask those who are seated at the table, addressing himself to the host, what if instead of inviting those who can return the favor, you invite those who don't have a pot to pee in? And what if instead of inviting everybody from your part of town, you just invite the folks from the other side of the tracks? Or what if you throw a party and you just invite complete strangers? Or what if you invited those who would be flabbergasted to get an invitation instead of those who were waiting to see if they'd gotten theirs first? One of the guests begins to see where this is going, and he answers the critique something like, well, that would be a taste of a different world, wouldn't it? And then it's kind of the perfect segue for Luke to have Jesus tell this parable about a great dinner party. And like any good story, it's part comedy, part tragedy, part fairy tale. And like any parable a teacher like Jesus would tell, it has all kinds of sharp edges you can cut yourself on. So imagine, as the table talk goes, Jesus says, what about a dinner party just like the one you're enjoying now? The host has gone to great lengths to prepare a festive dinner. Distinguished guests from all over accept the honor of attending. And when the time comes, and all is ready, and they are beckoned to come, they choose not to come for absolutely no good reason, like they have to go buy a cow right now. Or they suddenly remember they're getting married that day. Or there's a piece of property that they'd like to see because it's being foreclosed and there's a chance to grab it. And this embarrassed and determined host isn't going to settle for anything less than a full house. So how do you fill the house? You end up populating the dinner party with street folk and farm workers, those who never got a taste of this kind of fare. It becomes a champagne and caviar affair for those who mostly eat craft dinner. And then comes the prickly part of the story. Luke has Jesus turn to those sitting at the Pharisees' table and hearing this story, and he says to them, but you know, the sad part is that not one of you who has received an invitation to this dinner party will end up taking your place at this amazing table and tasting this incredible feast. Whew. How to win friends and influence enemies. You entertain them with a silly tale, and then comes the velvet glove. Huddled around this safe table with all their peers, he tells them they're missing the dinner party of a lifetime. They're absent from the table where everyone would have a place. And perhaps it's more a lament than it is a word of judgment. Those who were about to dine at that elite dinner table are among those who'd been invited to the feast of a lifetime but won't taste any of its delicacies. Not because they aren't welcome. Not because they weren't included. But because they refuse to taste a new and radical equality. A kind of inclusive and mutual table where everyone's welcome, everyone has a place. They resist would change being rooted in the kind of radical hospitality that would change their world. See, for Jesus of Nazareth in first century Roman-occupied Palestine, the table was a microcosm of the world. And it was the most segregated place in his society. And the world began at the dinner table. It's the laboratory where we all learn to practice hospitality. What if that storied house in the parable had been filled with the diversity of the rich and the poor, the landless and the landlords, the elite and the peasants, the locals and the foreigners, the oppressed and the oppressors, the urbanites and the farmers, the Romans and the Palestinians, the Jews and the Gentiles, the able-bodied and the otherly abled? How could these guests have gotten up from that table and gone on with business as usual? How could they not have been changed by tasting both the sweetness and the bitterness of life as they learned from one another how things had come to be the way they are? What could be more dangerous to the imperial agenda than for us to actually meet each other face to face in the mutuality of having butter on our chin and ketchup on our face amid all the complexities of our lives? How would we not be moved to change the social arrangement? If we ate with the makers of our clothes and the growers of our coffee and the pickers of our grapes and the producers of our food and the hungry and the homeless, how could things possibly stay as they are? How could it fail to change what we eat and how we grow our food and where we buy our clothes and how we use land and water? Because hospitality is about so much more than good manners or polite conversation or social grace. It's about living graciously, spaciously, generously with each other. It's about replacing well-meaning charity with sacred hospitality. It's about welcoming each other to a shared table, a common ground, a place to know and be known. Because you see, in the ancient world, survival depended on hospitality. In nomadic cultures, if strangers didn't welcome you and provide for you while you traversed their land, you didn't survive. It was a matter of life and death, not a matter of etiquette. And in a very real way, our survival as a planetary species, as nation states, as a global economy, is going to depend on whether we can root ourselves in that ancient and sacred duty of hospitality, of caring for one another and sharing with one another, of receiving the gifts of each other's culture and language and traditions and resources. Almost 40 years ago, Judy Chicago first exhibited her great work, The Dinner Party. I remember seeing it at the Glenbow Museum in Calgary. It's now a permanent exhibit in the Brooklyn Museum in New York. It's a massive, ceremonial, ceramic banquet arranged in the shape of an open triangle, the symbol of equality. And there are 39 place settings honoring women who have not been included as the history makers of their time. Another 999 women are named on the heritage floor on which those tables sit. And there are also panels welcoming guests to the tables, as well as the heritage panels portraying the lives of the women whose names are inscribed in the floor. And among those place settings are those words that echo the dream of a world rooted in hospitality. Let's hear them again. And then all that has divided us will merge. And then compassion will be wedded to power. And then softness will come to a world that's harsh and unkind. And both men and women will be gentle. And both women and men will be strong. And no person will be subject to another's will. And then all will be rich and freed and varied. And then the greed of some will give way to the needs of many. And then all will share equally in the earth's abundance. And all will care for the sick and the weak and the old, and all will nourish the young. And all will cherish life's creatures. And all will live in harmony with each other and the earth. And then everywhere will be called Eden once again. Hospitality cannot be relegated to being just an industry. It has to become a way of life, a way that we live together, a way that welcomes the most vulnerable to the table, a way that transforms the table of segregation, of safe circles of family and friends into places of mutuality where we meet strangers and are forever changed by one another. We have opportunities in this season to become more rooted in hospitality. Opportunities to be changed by the hospitality we give and receive. Opportunities to build a longer table where walls will become obsolete.
We spend a few moments every time we gather to share gratitude for all the ways that the contributions of this community work together to make for a more spacious, more grateful, more compassionate more hospitable world. And so we take this time to thank you for all the ways that you've contributed to the life and work of this community, for the ways that you offer your time and your energy and your resources. If you'd like to give to the work of this community, there are many ways to do it. There's a box at the door that you can place checks or cash in an envelope and support us that way. You can donate online. You can purchase grocery cards, which a portion of those sales goes to our operating budget. And there are also ways that we can contribute in the coming weeks by means of our hospitality through the ways we reach out. On Christmas Eve, our No Room in the Inn offerings this year will go to the Youth Empowerment Support Services, to YES, to support them in their work. We can support Operation Friendship in ways that David says we need a few more servers for the Christmas luncheon this year, and ways to donate to Operation Friendship so that the group can purchase a few grocery items to make the Christmas dinner in downtown Edmonton a special one this year. So lots of ways that we can extend our hospitality. One of two members from SSUC Saskatoon, Cliff and Debbie, are here with us this morning, and Cliff is going to offer us a little insight into the mission and the work that SSUC Saskatoon has been connected with over the many years, and is going to give us a glimpse into ICM, the ministry in Saskatoon. Thank you, Cliff.
Good morning, everyone. An additional set of greetings from Debbie and myself from SSUC Saskatoon, and also greetings back to our people gathered at St. Andrew's College. And also on behalf of the board of Riverbend Integrated Community Ministries, I'd also like to send greetings. That's who I'll be talking about today, or in short, just ICM. So our Integrated Community Ministries. So, and thank you very much for the opportunity to speak to a community that has been so very important to the former MVUC and now SSUC Saskatoon over the years. So the office of ICM is located in the core neighborhood of Saskatoon. It was started over 40 years ago by St. Thomas Wesley United Church as a congregational ministry with an outreach worker. It became a presbytery ministry over 30 years ago, the Riverbend Presbytery, and it has the distinction of being the smallest outreach ministry in the United Church of Canada. It has one full-time position known as a community minister. So ICM is a member of the Saskatoon Anti-Poverty Coalition, the All My Relations Network, and the Social Justice Network. The mission of ICM is to build relationships of solidarity, justice, and compassion among individuals, congregations, and community organizations in the core neighborhood of Saskatoon. The work of ICM, so it's a very purposeful ministry of presence and relationship focused on issues of social justice in the core neighborhoods. The guiding principle of ICM is a concept of right relationships and works to establish these by empowering individuals. And we believe ICM is definitely rooted in the Christian gospel, embodiment of Jesus' call to bring people to the healing power of community with one another. The programs of ICM we're very proud of. They're a purposeful intent of creating positive spirit with members of the community, facilitates long-term, authentic relationship development. We're not a frontline agency, although we are supportive of these partners. Some of the programs, so 10 by 10 art has been one that's been for a number of years. It appeared in the Gifts with Vision a number of years back. It involves 60 plus, and this year we're hoping about 75 to 80 different artists in the core community. They're given a 10 by 10 canvas. There's two examples of those on the book table at the back there this morning. I brought a couple with us that we purchased. Artists are given this 10 by 10 canvas, and it is displayed in locations throughout Saskatoon, businesses and churches. and their silent auctions are held. So this program starts about now and goes till May. The program is the end of May, and there's bidding on the art. There's a music program at the end and a big gala, and final opportunity to bid on art, and artists get half the money and ICM gets the other half. Essential Voices is a program that was kind of an effort done a number of years back, and kind of helps guide ICM in terms of dealing with core communities. Nothing about us without us. So we've come to learn that nothing productive or positive will happen in the areas of marginalization, which includes poverty, homelessness, child hunger, discrimination, unless the voices of those impacted are at the decision-making table. So the people that we work with are not the objects of our programming, but our strategic partners, and we provide opportunities for employment. Chop and Chat is the program I talk about today. It appears on page 11 of the Gifts with Vision. So I've been asked by the current community minister to put this front and center. So page 11 is the Chop and Chat program. It's a once-a-week thing from September to May. We have a very energetic, organized, and enthusiastic coordinator, Chantel, who works with to put together the meal every week. We partner with the CHEP Good Food Program, Child Hunger Education Program, and the program involves bringing volunteers from a number of United Churches, and it just so happens that our SSUC Saskatoon group are tagged with the December volunteer. So we've got people that are involved. I'll just mention Hugh and Laurie, Tricia, Lorraine, Joyce, Terry, Wynn, and Debbie are going to be involved in December, and next week is the Christmas feast on December 19th. So some of the involvement over the year, I'd like to acknowledge Janet Clark, who has spent 17 years as the community ministry at ICM. Janet retired about 2 years ago. I also like to acknowledge some of the MVUC people over the years. So Ali Harms, long-term board member, and was instrumental in getting the 10 by 10 program off the ground, working with community artists and other ICM participants. Board members, Mary Jane Waugh and others, to keep the programs going during a transition of ministers, and our own Lorraine Harkness, the MVUC minister, definitely affiliated now with SSUC. So Lorraine was the board chair for a number of years, and MVUC actually loaned Lorraine to ICM, and she worked in the chair during a time of health leave for the then current minister. At the moment, we went through a J&I process. Jane Jupe is now the new community minister. She's been in place for a year. And importance to SSUC, when MVUC closed, 25% of the residual monies were donated in trust to ICM. So it's very good timing for that, because the mission and service and the Presbytery grant have been cut to ICM almost half for 2019. So in closing, I just want to mention our Saskatoon group remains committed to ICM and its work. Again, the minister would tell me, mention Gifts with Vision. Thank you very much for the opportunity today, and I must tell you, just as I suspected, Nancy is a tough act to follow. Thank you.
We have a really special opportunity to spend 2 minutes giving tribute and honor to someone who has, from SSUC Edmonton, who has worked tirelessly over the years with Operation Friendship, and I want to call David up to begin that.
Thank you. As you know, every once in a while, I'm always up here asking for people to come and help me cook lunch for Operation Friendship, and that's happening again next week when we do our special Christmas gathering. But today, I want to give special thanks to somebody who's worked tirelessly with Operation Friendship over the years. Jean, could you please come up and join us? Jean Hamilton. Jean and I have been working together for the last 10 years, ever since I joined this church in making, one person I want to introduce here. Sorry. Thank you, Rod. This is Jimmy Morrison. Jimmy Morrison, some of you have met before. He works with Operation Friendship, and he also appreciates all the work that Jean has done over the years. So he's just come here today for a special today to give honorable mention of Jean. Jean has been working tirelessly on this outreach project for over 30 years, actually. Not only were we doing the cooking in the church here for the last 10 years, but prior to that, she helped organize getting people in the church to make the lunches and bring them down to us. I'm going to turn it over to the mic to Jimmy here, and he's going to say a few words as well.
Let me just say, yes, one of the happiest moments of my life was when David agreed to... He was a little reluctant at first, but he's full into it now. Thank you.
I'll keep this really short, but it's an honor to be here, Jean, with you today. Someone once asked me, what does volunteering mean? And the first thing that pops to my mind is the picture of Jean and her countless hours of giving back to the community, kind, generous, warm heart. We wish you all the best in your next chapter of your life. From the bottom of our hearts, thank you for all you've done for Operation Friendship over 30 years. But on a personal note, thank you for teaching me a lot about volunteering and what it means to the community. And I only hope one day I'm half the person that you are. So thank you very much.
We because it's the Christmas season, rather than bringing an arrangement of flowers, we thought we'll bring you a poinsettia. And these often last for quite a while after Christmas, so we're hoping you're going to be able to take this with you, and it survives the trip. Jean is moving down to Calgary to be closer to her two daughters in southern Alberta, and she has sold her condominium already, and she will be leaving sometime in the new year. Thank you, everybody. Okay.
I always think one of the greatest things that I've appreciated at Southminster has just been the opportunity for so many things that I could get involved in. So it's just to have the opportunity has been life-giving to me. Thank you.
We live our lives in ever-widening circles. And whether we're in Edmonton and we can extend the reach of our circle to Operation Friendship, or we're in Saskatoon and we can extend the reach of our circle to ICM, we have opportunities to build a bigger table, a longer table, to be at table with those who are not in this circle, but are in the circle of our love and our lives. And so we take our light, the light of our hospitality, to share it among strangers and friends, to take the best of who we are into the world we dream to be possible.